What if the way you've been telling your life story reveals the secret to what is holding you back? Stories play an integral part in how we see not only ourselves, but the whole world. Stories are more than just an important part of communication. They also reveal hidden aspects of our inner talk, which can either support us or end up holding us back from the very things we want most in life, without us even realizing it. Join author, mindset coach, and award-winning singer-songwriter Carrie Rowan on her show, Look for the Good, every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. when she shares nuggets of wisdom from her internationally best-selling book, Tell a New Story, 5 Simple Steps to Release Your Negative Stories and Bring Joy to Your Life. Carrie's powerful stories and compelling guests will empower you to change how you look at your own life while giving you some powerful tools and tips you can use every day to help you feel better and move yourself closer to the life you've been longing to live.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to Look for the Good. I'm your host, Carrie Rowan, mindset strategist and life coach, and I love sharing nuggets of wisdom about the stories we tell each other, and more importantly, those stories we tell ourselves. So you can join me and my special guests as we share our personal stories of strength and triumph every week here on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. And you can listen online on your mobile device, in your car, or ask Alexa to play Dream Vision 7 Radio. And tune in every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time to get real stories and tips on how to turn your story and your life around. And evolve with us as we unite humankind with universal love. Everybody, I am so jazzed up for this week's episode. And you know, we love talking about stories. And I have my friend Karen Chapman in the wings waiting. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Carrie. I'm so happy to be here.
So excited to have you here. And as you know, you guys, we have stories. We have those deep, deep stories. Some of them we share, some of them we don't. But Karen and I were talking earlier about how it's those very stories that connect us, especially as women. We love to tell stories, right? And it's in that sharing where we find our deep, authentic self and where we can really connect with other people. And it's those stories of empowerment, but also those stories that kind of sneak in that are disempowering, that we have to learn how to overcome, right? We have to learn how to get over our own stories so we can go on and achieve the things we want to in our lives and be the authentic people that we came here on this planet to be. And that's really what we're going to talk to Karen about today. But before we dive in, let me tell you a little bit about Karen, because we actually go way back, and this is so funny that we discovered that. We're going to get to that story. So Karen's the president and CEO of the Corridor 9 495 Regional Chamber of Commerce since 2014. After serving as the Chamber's vice president since 2002, wowza, Karen's career spans over 40 years in the chamber profession and has grown the Corridor 9 495 Chamber to the largest chamber in the Metro West region of Massachusetts with over 500 business members. And moi included as one of those. And that's how Karen and I. So welcome, Karen.
Oh, Carrie, thank you. I'm so honored to be a guest on your show today. When I
Oh.
met you and you had a title of Professor of Happiness and Joy, this is somebody I want to get to know.
Well, thank you. I love that. And you know, it was so funny that first conversation we had because I was really interested in joining and I knew some people that were part of it. And people just, they just can't say enough about this chamber. And I was like, I've got to figure out what's going on. Who's this Karen gal they're all talking about? And long story short, we have some very, very similar history together about, you know, back in the day. So tell us a little bit about that story because I love that conversation and the fact that you actually knew my dad and we connected all those lines from way back in our Worcester days.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to run into you and then get really into it to figure out how so much our career aligned and that we knew the same people. So in 1980, I graduated high school at 18 years old and said I'm not going to college. And not a lot of people know that about me. And the reason why I chose that is I really didn't know what I want to do with my life. So long story short, I had a business teacher in high school who favored me, and I was
Mhm.
very fortunate. I did some work for him, and the Worcester Regional Chamber had a job opening for a secretary at that time, and he says, "I'm mad at you for not going to college, and I want you to go apply for this job." And so
I love
I
it.
did, and I will start with my dad telling me that this job would open up any door for me, and boy, did I know that he could see in the future when I was 18 years old. So I
Wow.
applied and I got it. And I started at the largest chamber in New England at the time. It was a 4,000 member chamber. And my life took off from there. My relationships were built from there. And because of that amazing opportunity, I end up building relationships with so many people that comes full circle back to me in the end. It's from a career to be in Worcester to my career here out in Westboro and in the Metro West region. Those relationships that I built 45 years ago still exist today and
Wow.
brought me new connections, which is what brought Carrie and I together when she came to one of my events and we had this amazing story when she shared your story, like where your career started 40 years ago. And I'm like, oh my God, we know the same people. Your dad was involved in my chamber. Carrie, tell them a little bit about that 'cause it's my favorite story too.
I love that because I mean, who knew? Like we connected on this level because I was right out of college. I went to work in corporate America and I was super young too. And I got this job with this big Fortune 100 company. And I didn't, that was what they suggested you start. And my father was always big on the chamber. Join the chamber, join the chamber. So that's what he was big on. So I was like, I guess I'm going to join the local chamber because my office was in Auburn, but my territory was like North Worcester County. And, they give the rookie drive a million miles a day territory. So I had North Worcester County for a while. Then it was in Worcester. And so I did. I joined the chamber, and it was a really great way, like you said, building relationships, meeting those people who knew that that one step would lead to so many things in my life that, I really can't even. It all started there, though, right? It's just every little step leads to the next step.
So,
And
well, that's right. I don't like to talk about the chamber because my members do it for me. And that's exactly what you just did. You do it for me. You're the ones, the testimonials about the value of the organization. So,
so true. And I met so many amazing people and friendships. That's what's really cool about it, But the fact that we had that common thread that I think I just happened to mention, my dad was really good friends with Bill Short, who at the time was the president of the chamber. I went to school with his daughter. So my dad, connected us and I met him and I went to the meetings. And that's intimidating when you're a young girl out of college and there's mostly men there, right? It's intimidating to go to one of those meetings, but I put my suit on and I went and I shook hands and passed out my business card and just like
yeah,
my dad said to do, and he was right. But that connection goes way back because wasn't Bill a mentor for you?
he was an incredible mentor. He was an icon in the chamber professional world. Um, I'm so proud to say that when I was appointed president of the chamber out here in the Metro West region, his wife, unfortunately, Bill had passed away. His wife sent me a note just telling me how proud he would have been of me. So a girl that started at 18 years old to becoming a president of my own chamber here out in Metro West region brought tears to my eyes because he was an incredible mentor. At the same time, he built a community, not only for the community of businesses, but his staff. We were a
Mm.
family. So I learned what community is and learning more about myself along the way as I was building a career that I never really even knew that I wanted Carrie at the time, but I just kind of fell in love with it because it's a family, it's a community. And
Yeah.
women really know how to build a community, and which is what I love about my chamber. But my chamber is all kinds of business leaders, and I have great connections with everybody. But when I started my women's program years ago, which is where you and I got connected later on, it's what I learned that we're so good at sharing and being who we really are and talk about
Mm.
the things that are important to us.
Yes, I love that. That's really powerful. It's interesting that you keep saying family because when I wrote my little note here to myself, and because as I am a member of the chamber, I was going to say because it's a very different feel here. It's very warm and friendly, and I wrote the word family right here on my
Yep.
notes. And
Yep.
I was going to say, like, now I know how you started that. Like, how do you accomplish that to make it so warm and friendly and make it feel small, even though it's big? It's got over 500 members.
Yeah, I feel like too that you and I both know that relationship building takes a while. It really does. And one of the things for me when I was starting out at 18 and nobody knew me, I knew that I came from amazing roots where hard work was where you applied yourself, being the best person that you were. Um, and knowing and understanding that the people around me and I've said this to anybody that I've worked with, my staff or other people, be a sponge. And
Mm.
I decided I was going to be the sponge because I learned something from Bill Short. I learned somebody from my direct boss. I learned from my colleague that was next to me. I learned from my members. I learned from my directors. And I'm still learning every day. But at the end of the day, I got to be who I was and learn that people, because of what I was wanting to do and being the person that was proud, and you can tell that I loved what I did, and that I was magnetic at attracting other people, at least
Mhm.
I thought, is that if that's something that I have, then I need to put that out in the world. But I didn't believe in myself right away. It took a little while to get there. And I had some great champions behind me, and my mom being one of them. But I learned along the way that, and my sister, and along the way, is being authentic was to help me to build the relationships that I was, and I was who I was. My mother didn't apologize for who she was, and I don't apologize for who I am. I love what I do. Sometimes I'm called a traffic cop, sometimes I'm called a therapist, sometimes I'm called a president, sometimes I'm called something else that I don't really particularly care for. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm true to who I am.
I love that. And that's why, see, that's what makes it so special at your chamber, right? Is like, and when somebody else owns that and they give us that as an example, it allows us, it gives us the permission to be the same thing, to stand up and be okay with being our authentic selves, our true selves, who we really are, even if it's in business, right? And connecting with people. I feel like nowadays it's really what makes companies stand out is that authenticity and telling that authentic story about, like you just said, hey, I started when I was 18. I didn't really know what I was doing. You didn't even know that you wanted this job, and it ended up being such a beautiful,
Mhm.
fulfilling career for you.
I didn't know it was gonna be my career. I didn't know that I was gonna fall in love with the people that I worked with and fall in love with members. I also didn't know that I was gonna learn so much along the way. It's what I didn't know. And
Yeah.
then to realize, like, this was a full-time education for me, and I still learn something from somebody every day. And I
Mm.
find so much joy in that. I really do. And I have to be honest, I mean, I love working with all my members, but when we started our women's group in 2013, it challenged me a little bit because
Really?
now it put me into a forum that I had to share a lot more about myself, which mostly growing up in a male-dominated field, I don't think that I regularly put that out about myself. And so now I'm with a group of women and I'm amazed by the women that are sharing their stories and sharing their vulnerabilities and being their authentic self. And I love that. I celebrate that. And I also learned something when somebody called me a very strong person, which I hear a lot. And I had a conversation that my mother was a strong leader for us, and I think about her so often about that. My sister is a strong one. We were raised by strong parents.
Mm.
My sister, probably best advice is that you need to celebrate that as a badge of honor because sometimes I thought it was used against me. Oh, you're so
Mm.
strong. And I'm like, yeah, I was built strong to be able to be the leader that I need to be, or to be the good sister that I am, or to be the friend that I am. But I also think that my sister said, and I'll never forget that because my mother was that, is that but that's who you are and that's okay. Be
Mm.
authentic to who you are. And
Yes.
those words still resonate to me today. Be who you are. I'm
I love
strong.
that.
I
Yeah,
am.
you're strong, and that's a good thing. And it's interesting, right, how people will sometimes take what our superpower is and chip away at it and make it that a negative story for us. Like you could have taken that story and been like, "Oh, I'm strong. Maybe I'm too strong. Let's dim my light a little bit. I'm too strong for other people around me," especially like you said in a male-dominated industry, and that can be converted to other words as well.
Yep.
But I do believe that owning that, right? Coming out and saying, I am strong. And guess what? That's my superpower, right?
Yep.
And owning it as your superpower, embracing it instead of us trying to push against it and kind of morph ourselves into what we think society wants, right?
Yeah. I'll never forget a conversation with another member where the word strong made me feel like there was something wrong with me. The way he would say that word back to me. And it bothered me. And that's where it led to me having a conversation with my own sister about it. She says, "You really need to think about that as a badge of honor. Look what you've built because of that." And you know what? That really did change that around for myself because it made me question who I was. And secondly, what you just talked about is that I have to own who I am. And I do. I own who I am. It doesn't mean it always makes you popular. This same person
Yeah.
also sent me, and I'll never forget it. It is a meme with Steve Jobs on it. And it says, if you want to be popular, go sell ice cream. If you want to be a leader, then do what you're doing. So,
Amen. I love that. I love that. And that's a great example too, because you also mentioned vulnerability. And Steve Jobs is really an example of that, because companies on the cutting edge have to be vulnerable. Why? Because that's where new ideas come from. If you don't create, and I think leaders need to do more of that these days than they are, is creating that environment where vulnerability is okay.
yes,
Because if it's not okay, then I'm not going to raise my hand in the meeting and say, I've got this great new killer idea. I know nobody's done it before. And look at Apple, everything they do, nobody's done before, right? So you have to create a safe environment for people to be vulnerable so they can get in there and discover what their superpowers are and be safe enough to speak up and say, hey, here's what I think might be the answer, or here's something that's innovation, because you can't have innovation without vulnerability. I think that's a
amen.
really, really
Well said.
powerful
I
thing.
find that I'm surrounded by those members that bring their superpowers to me every day. And that's the thing. Nothing's better than being part of a community that I'm not alone, to be with people that are really truly committed to driving an organization that really can benefit everybody that's involved. So as I said, I don't own this business. I was hired to run this business, but I'm passionate about it. And everybody who knows me knows that about me. And secondly is that you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. And for leadership for me, I have that with an amazing staff and with an amazing board, with amazing members, amazing family. I say I have a great posse. I'm surrounded with a great posse.
That's
Couldn't
awesome.
be
It
luckier.
is, right? It's so important because we become, right? Like what's that stat about? We become the people, we become like the people that we hang out with most, those five most influential people around us. So yeah, why not support yourself and fill your life with those people that see your passion, that can match sort of, your vibe, your energy level, and keep you where we need to be. Because let's face it, we can't be, up every single day. But when we are surrounded by people like that who see us, they see our superpower, they see us and value us, and embrace what we stand for. And those are the very people that can help lift us up when we need a little lift, right? Tell us a
Right.
different story about what's going on when we need to hear a different and new, empowering perspective that sometimes we get stuck in. We can't always see.
Yeah. One thing that you talk about is sharing your story all the time. And that was something that I realized is that storytelling is the most important part of what I do, because there's so many stories to share. It may be a member, somebody's a great story from a member, and I shared a story this morning about becoming just becoming the new president and having a guest speaker who got to the front of the podium and went blank and said, "I can't do this," and just walked off the stage
Oh,
and left me with a room of 200 people and going, "What's next?" Right? That's a great story, but it was a moment for me. I was prepared for it, thank God, because of but a little bit of intuition that
mm-hmm,
we were ready and went to the next step for it. But it's
mm-hmm.
part of my story. Something that happened to me that didn't happen to somebody before me, but something that I learned from that too, right? And sitting there saying that, okay, be ready.
Wow, right.
I don't like to be surprised. I sensed it. I was ready for it. But I will tell you, those are the stories that helps built my leadership, because
Mm-hmm.
I laugh so much about it when a member comes up to you. You remember the story? Remember the speaker that didn't speak? I said, yes, I remember that story every day. Every day.
Thank God. You are so good though. Being at those meetings, you are so good at creating stuff on the fly. I know you've thought about it beforehand, but you appear as if you think very quickly on your feet. And that's really a great skill for a leader. So to be able to be like, okay, and make light of the situation. And I know you had 15,000 ideas in your head floating around of what we're going to do next, right? Passing the mic. No, nobody gets to touch the mic except for Karen, but holding the mic for people to speak into it, right? And whatever it is, you are prepared for it. And I feel like that comes with experience. And like you said, intuition, knowing what the situation needs at the time, reading the room, right?
Mm.
It's a powerful skill to teach people.
Yeah. And you know what? Being in a room filled with lots of different personalities and different levels of management, what I see is a room of just amazing people. And for me, it's like everybody has value in that room. Everybody has ideas in that room. And it's never been lost on me. And I will share with you when I first became president and somebody called me I'm their boss, I had a hard time with that. You're the
Hmm.
boss. And I'm like, "You're the president." I'm like, "Well, I'm just Karen. I'm just Karen." You know? I get dressed the same as you do. I do what I do. You're passionate about what you do. But I had a hard time hearing that over and over again when somebody called me their boss, I'm like, yeah, but I had a boss too, and she was Barbara to me. And
Uh-huh.
I'm Karen to you, and I want to be a mentor, I want to be the leader, but I want us to be partners in whatever we do. So I learned along the way that as my career has taken lefts and turns, even though it's still in the same organization, my leadership in my own organization changes every 2 years. I have a new boss every 2 years.
Wow,
We
that's
elect
pretty
a new
cool.
chairman every
Hmm.
2 years.
Hmm.
So my
Wow.
boss never stays the same. So
Mm.
I'm working with a different personality and a different person every 2 years. And I've learned a long time ago, early upon in my career, that um, being adaptable, being fluid, being agile is something that I needed to be early on,
Mm.
and still remaining who I was. And I think everybody, when they meet me, they pretty much know who I am. I don't try to hide behind who I am. And it doesn't mean that I'm not just strong. It just means that I really want to be approachable. I want to work with people. I want to be friendly, and I want to know that they feel like they're in a part of a community that really does care about them. So, yeah,
Amen.
so leadership changes for me all the time.
That's amazing. And you have done that. And that's what makes it so special here. And I know you guys are hanging on Karen's every word, but we're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor. Hold tight. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Look for the Good. I'm here with Karen Chapman, and we just are talking so much between the show. I had to like break so we could come back and share it with you guys. It was so good. I want you to tell us the story. I love how you said that your mom was your life spirit and role model, and she really owned and embraced her authentic self. And in that generation, that's not really something you did. Talk to us a little bit about that. Tell us the
Yeah.
story.
So my mom passed away a year ago.
Aw.
And she was 86 years old. And unfortunately, ultimately, her death was due to a bad fall, which really was kind of brought on by her dementia. So, but what my mom was a strong, independent woman who was raised in a different generation that you were to wait on men. And my sister and I were like, we don't wait on anybody. But she was married to my dad for 66 years, and they had an
Wow.
amazing relationship. But the part I didn't tell you yet, Carrie, is that my mom was direct. She loved with her whole heart. She befriended anybody. She showed love by baking and bringing food to you every day.
Ooh.
She spoiled the heck out of me, and she was my best friend, a companion. We went shopping and vacation together, just her and I go on a weekend together. But
Aw.
mostly, more importantly, is there wasn't a day that I didn't go by that I didn't talk to her probably at least twice. But who has the joy of knowing that the minute I hear her voice, she was so excited to hear from me. Or if I walked in the room, she was so excited to see me. And I've always said, if you have one person in your life, whether it's your children or your spouse or whatever it was my mom. My mom made me feel like I was on top of the world no matter what I did. So
Aw.
I miss her. But
Yeah,
what I loved
yeah.
about her was she never apologized for who she was. She didn't graduate high school, but there wasn't a problem she couldn't solve, and she solved a lot of mine. She was ready to fight my battles for me. If somebody said something not very kind to me, she was ready to
Mhm.
beat them up. She would laugh afterwards. Or
Yeah.
she would sit next to me over a lost love as I was crying. Or she was there to clap and show joy and love for something that she was so proud about me. But
Aw.
the one thing about her more than anything is that she was a pistol. She was direct. She said the way it was.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories from her is she was quite the cook and quite the baker. And in our family, her homemade macaroni and cheese was the true love.
Oh, that sounds
So we
yummy.
had gone to her granddaughter's for a party,
Mhm.
And this woman came up to her and said to her, Mrs. Chapman, I understand. I just tasted your macaroni and cheese and I would love the recipe. And my mother shook her head very kindly. And as she walked away, she turned to me and she says, I don't want to give her the recipe. It's my recipe.
I love it.
I laughed and I
I
said,
get
then you
it.
don't have to. I said, if that, and she was authentic to who she was. She
I
says,
love it.
it's my recipe. It's my grandchildren's love and my children's love, and I'm not sharing it.
I
And I
love
said,
it.
that's okay, Mom. She was authentic to who she was,
I love that.
and she did not apologize for it. She made it very clear as my siblings, my brother, my sister, and I. It became a running joke, but the truth was, she made it very clear that she was the boss of us, and there was only
Mm,
one person that was the boss of us, and she said it was her.
I love
Her
it.
dying words that she left a note was how much she loved all of us, and that
Oh,
she built a family that she knew would always be close, and that she said, "And I'll always be the boss of you." And
that's how
those were
she
her
ended the
dying.
note. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah,
love that.
those were
Oh,
her written words. And
wow.
the other story, which I've not shared with a lot of people, was when the opportunity of being the president of this chamber was most likely going to be offered to me, and I didn't know, but I was
Mhm,
debating if that's the next step in my career I really wanted to do for
mhm.
many reasons. So I went to my own external system to talk about it, and it started with my parents and some really good friends. But the morning I was going to walk into this office, two people called me, a good friend, but then my mom called me and said, I've been thinking a lot about it. And she said, you must take that job. You will regret
Oh,
it if you don't take that job. You earned it. You've earned the respect of people. They believe in you. You have to do it. And I said, you're right. Yeah, she was my biggest champion. Fear got in my way a little bit,
mm,
and secondly,
mm.
I knew what I was going to be doing and some of the challenges that I was going to meet when I first took it over, but somebody says, I believe in you all the time. I know what you have. I know what you can do. If you have one champion on your behalf in the entire world, which was my mother, who would tell me yes or no and point out all the bad things, she was
Oh
straight,
yeah,
straight, then
love it.
you're lucky, you're blessed. And
Yeah,
so she's
so
my
I
life
agree.
spirit. And even though she's not here, her words are in my ears every day.
Oh,
Um,
I love
she
that.
was my role model because she was
Mhm.
authentic. She
Yeah.
was a devil. She loved to be a prankster and laugh. She laughed at her own jokes that nobody else got. But if you told a joke, she couldn't laugh. She didn't get it.
I love that. I think that's fabulous. But I
Yeah.
love what you said about her being so excited when you walked in the room. I feel
Yeah.
like for a parent to make their child feel like that is a really special gift because we get so busy with our own stuff, right? That we forget to be present. And she was a woman way ahead of her time. She was acting in the present moment. She was being present for you, regardless of what she had going on in her life. And that is such a magical gift. I love that.
Yeah. I agree. In the latter part of my mom's life, I think my gift to return was to be there for her.
Yeah, isn't that what we do, right?
It was an
And
honor to be there for her. And you know what? I will miss her every day, but I will say lives within me forever. And I think also that, as I say, she's my life spirit is because you can hear her and she's present. And I've had the gift of receiving signs from her because she used to use the word dodo. And so she didn't swear, but she would say, you're a dodo. And
I love it.
not long after she passed, I had gone into a store to pick up something next door to Stop and Shop. And I came across an 80-year-old woman in the flower department, and she thought I worked there, and so she started talking to me, and I got such joy from her. And she was telling me her story. She was a former nurse. She had a stroke. She didn't appear that way. Her son moved in, and it was
Mhm.
time for her son to move out. She was letting me know that. And then she was saying his wife, and these were her words, his wife was a dodo.
Oh,
And I took 2 steps
wow.
back
Right?
when I heard those words because in my lifetime, the only person that said dodo was my mother. You're a dodo. And I went, okay, mom. It was only about a month after she passed. And I said,
Wow.
I gotcha. You're still with
Wow.
me.
I love
So
that. She was sending you a message through this lady. I
yeah,
love
she's
that.
yeah, and I believe in dreams and I believe in those kinds of things because she proves it to me. But she's with me in my heart always, and I'll always be with her. But she, if you have one person that thinks that you are a rock star, you're blessed in this world. And she thought I was a rock star.
You are a rock star. I
Oh,
love that.
thank you.
I love
Well,
that. You
she
don't.
made me believe that, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I love it. And in those moments when we question ourselves, it doesn't matter, especially when we're going to take a step into something new, right? Like you stepping into a new role. We have that imposter thing that comes up for us. No matter who you are, no matter how many letters you have after your name, you feel that way. Like I felt very much that way when I was going to launch my book. Um, and so I love that she was there to help you work through that, right? And give you her intuition and give you her insights and really kind of push you just that little tiny push that you needed. We like to say a love and some shove. Um, so I love that because it's just what you needed to step out of that comfort zone. And that's what our minds do. So it's normal for everybody to feel that way. Really, really.
You speak the truth very clearly. And that's what it is. Even though I love what I do and I can be very confident about what I do, we all question ourselves at one point, and I needed my own mother to give me that little extra push that says, "You need to do this," right?
Yeah.
And she never she was never wrong, so I knew if anybody was gonna tell me the way to do it, it was gonna be her. So,
I love that. My mother too, like, she might make me angry with what she says or really annoyed, but it's always right. I'm always like, why do you always have to be right?
100% true, always
Right?
right.
You might
Yep.
not want to hear it, but there is value in those little snippets, right? Like, and then, like we spoke, we have very parallel thoughts and things that happened to us on the issue of your mom and my dad who passed. And that's what I share in my book. One of the little things was these little catchphrases he would say so fast that if you didn't like register it, and he's saying this when we're younger and it's just kind of in one ear out the other, but they stuck in my head. It's as if they were little things that you put on a sticky note and stick around your office. And my book is filled with those little catchphrases. Like that tomorrow's not promised to anybody, right? He used to say for some reason I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. I don't know why he said that. Nobody really says that much anymore. But it just meant get out there, do the thing that you want to do, step outside of that comfort zone and take a chance on life. And those are words to live by for sure.
So it's so good, and I think that's where my career was. It was always that journey, doing things I never thought I was going to do, being in front of 200 people and speaking all the time, right?
Yeah.
And or developing programs that randomly, sometimes as silly as can be, but people love them. Or secondly, Carrie in a dunk tank 2 nights ago and letting members take a
Did you
shot at.
do the tongue check?
We did a dunk tank,
I'm
yes.
sorry I missed that.
Yes, don't worry. Everybody else dunked me well enough before you, so don't you worry about I felt the love that night.
Oh, that is
Being silly,
awesome.
being authentic yourself again, once again. I
Yeah.
got on that dunk tank and members took a shot at me and
I love that you got in the dunk tank. See,
yep.
that's really who you are, just being yourself. I'm not sure every president would get in the dunk tank, and I love that you did.
I'm still drying out, so don't worry about that.
And it was a little cool that night too, if I do
Yeah,
recall.
there seemed to be a little pleasure in that too when people were dunking me. I don't understand it.
Here you are thinking that they're all loving you, right? That's the way they show their love. That's awesome.
Yeah, they showed their love all right.
Well, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back with more stories from Karen. Hold tight. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Look for the Good. Karen was just sharing the most hilarious story. And I love what you were just telling me. Your mom is a neatnik. She was a total neatnik. My mom's a neatnik. She is here at my house now, and she's asking me, like, she can't have enough jobs. She's 80. Can I clean your garage? Can I clean the basement? You wouldn't know she's 80. So she likes everything to be very tidy. Tell them the story you were just telling me about your mom. And it's also a story that reiterates the signs that you mentioned earlier about the dodo sign. This is one more sign. Tell us that story. It's
Yeah.
fabulous.
So on the day of my mom's funeral, and we were during her service, we were raised Catholic and we were in church. And very clearly I was very upset. And my brother was sitting next to me and he elbows me a little bit and he points to the vestibule on the side, and he says, "There's a woman cleaning there right now in the middle of my mother's funeral service." And he goes, "Mom's here." And I just couldn't stop laughing. Him and I started laughing together because Mom was there, because Mom found incredible joy in cleaning.
I
That's
love
she
that.
loved it, cleaning, and I never understood that about that's where her and I were not the same. I said,
Right.
"I find no joy in cleaning. I like the end
Agreed.
result, but I don't find joy in doing it," I said.
Right?
So I was like, "Okay, how nice to be surrounded and to know." And I also said to my brother, "Of course she's here because everybody was talking about her and she's loving it right now."
She wants to hear all the good stories. She's like, "Yep, here I am with my little dusting thing right here, my little feather
Exactly.
duster." Right? I love that. It's hilarious. And like I said, it's also the sign that they're still there, right? They're still watching. They're still part of it. And I feel like that is so, so powerful. You shared another hilarious story.
Yeah, what was the other one that I talked about? There were so many. Oh,
When you went to a
yes.
funeral and the
We
yeah.
were unfortunately had to go to another funeral on behalf of my sister-in-law lost her mom, and I'm sitting next to my mom and my dad, and, when you get older in life too, they start thinking about their own mortality and planning our own funeral because
Mhm.
everything was done ahead of time and everything had to be perfect and cleaned and all that, so she's looking around at the front of the church, the priest was a good friend, and she's listening, but then she's looking, and then she looks at the casket and the beautiful cloth that's wrapped around it, and she whispers in my ear, she goes, "Listen, I don't like that color. I'd like a different cloth on my casket." And I had to not embarrass me because I was laughing so hard privately at her.
Right.
And I turned to her and I
At
said,
a
"You don't
funeral.
get to choose that." And we just started
Ah,
laughing. And luckily nobody else heard us, but I'm like, "Mom, I authentically herself. She
I love
was who
that.
she was, and I love that about her."
I so love even at a funeral, right? And that's for some reason when sometimes when you're in those moments when you're not supposed to laugh, things become way funnier for some reason.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And honestly, it's a hard situation to be in already.
yeah,
So she just blurted it out how she thinks, how she thought, and that's what I loved about her. It was never cruel. She
yeah.
was so kind, but that's what I loved about her.
I love that about her. She wants to change the whole way they do things at the church. That's so funny. So I love how you're wrapping this all around our authentic self, right? And what are those stories that we say? Because there's a lot of stories that get in the way. Like we talked about the story of your I'm strong, and that could be positive or negative. What is your personal mantra now? Do you have a little something that you say? Because I'd like to ask people, I might get special guest this, to yourself when you're in one of those moments, when you're in one of those tough moments, like when the person walked off and said they couldn't do the speaking, like what is it that you say to yourself that helps you get through to that next moment?
Uh, so something was shared this morning, which was such another learning moment for me. And I'm only going to do it because I fell in love with the quote, and it came from another member today.
Mm.
And it's something that's going to be my next little mantra as a reminder for me.
Oh,
And two stories. One is, and I've shared this with anybody that works for me. Many years ago, I walked into a company, huge company, and was met by the receptionist at the time. And on the placard was Director of First Impressions.
love it.
That was her title.
Love it.
And for me, I walked away from that saying, that's exactly it. We are directors of first impressions. I'm a membership organization, so whatever I put out there is going to come back to me, whatever my staff puts out there. And I have shared that story that we are always on the phone, we're director of first impressions when we meet people in person, how we treat our members, how we treat each other. We're all director of first impressions, right? Um,
I love that.
but what I also loved is somebody shared today that your smile is your logo.
Ooh.
Oh, I wrote it down. Your smile is your logo. And the other part about that was in the relationships that you build that come back to you is your trademark. And
Wow.
so I thought those were incredible words of wisdom that I wanted to pass along to my own staff today, which I was going to do later on. And it's something that I'm gonna put up in my own office because I felt our brand has always been that, but I want that to be my own personal brand. And if I am truly, truly the person that is authentic, and I believe in those words, because I do, I genuinely do. I said, then that's something that I want to pass along and give to somebody every other day. So my smile is my logo, and the relationships that we built that come back to me is my trademark. Then then I'm doing something right, and that's what I'm gonna. I took those words so seriously. We all did. We wrote them down after a meeting this morning, and I sat there and I went, I don't think anything more beautifully said that. I never heard it before, and I
Me
thought it was
either.
remarkable.
Is that's
Yes.
I love that. Your smile is your logo and your relationships are your trademark. Like, really, isn't that what it is like being in business? Isn't that what it is when, we get all hung up on we got to get this right in our 30-second elevator pitch and this, and and we spent all this money on the logo and the letterhead and this, but really, that is so true because that's owning your authenticity, your smile, and your ability to make relationships
Yeah.
and make people feel something.
Well, isn't it about what we feel all the time? No matter what relationship it is, it's how we feel, somebody feels about you.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly the truth. It's how somebody feels about you. That's why I want to do business with them. That's why I want to hang out with them. That's why I want to be part of your family, or part of your community. So, and what we put out there, which I'm so proud of the people that work with me every day, and proud of the friends that I have. Their character and their spirit is part of me. And spending time nurturing those relationships is something that I've always done. My own posse of friends internally have always said to me, "You're the leader of the group." Because I put it out and I'm like, "Oh, when do I get to stop being the leader?" That's what I wanna know.
When can I follow?
When can I just follow somebody? And the truth is, one of my friends said, "Because you would never do it."
Right,
And
exactly. You think it might be good, but you're gonna not be able to do that because, we're sort of, into the control piece of it.
so true. Last night, I went to, celebrate a new member business, and they had lipstick readings last night.
Lipstick readings. Interesting. Tell
Yeah.
me about that.
And I was so excited by that, and I said to myself, "I'm gonna do it." So I walked in, and they just give you any random, little sample size, and you put it on
Mhm,
your lips, and I kissed a business card.
mhm.
And I was remarkably impressed. And one of my other staff members did it too, and she was spot on about her. But she said, what she said about me is that I was the queen of the earth.
Wow.
And what that meant, and first of all, my staff member said to me, "You love the word that she said queen, and you didn't even
Queen.
hear anything else she said after that."
That's gotta go on your placard.
Talk about being authentic to myself, my own staff member says it to me.
That is so
No, it
awesome.
truly was the words afterwards, if I'm being authentic. She said,
Uh-huh.
"You are somebody that likes to get things accomplished." And I
Mm,
said, "Okay, you are spot on." And then secondly, the other thing is she just said some wonderful words about being kind and things about that. But the other words she said to me is, "You want to help people. You generally do.
mm,
But when you get to a certain point, meaning I did what I can do for you, and then you're done. That's it."
right? Launch
And
you.
I said, "She's right." I
Right.
said, I always say, even in my own organization, I'll lead you to what we provide those opportunities. You have to do the rest. And I said, I will help anybody. But she says, and I said, yes, well, how could I help 500 individual people with my personal attention all day long? I can't do that.
Right.
But it was a very spot on lipstick reading. And I went, okay, there's something to this stuff. That's all I'm going to say,
I
because I
love
walked
it.
away saying, I didn't think I was going to get anything out of it, but I truly, maybe it was the queen part. I'm not sure. It might have been.
I want to see that on your desk when I go into your office. Queen of the earth.
First,
That
I
is
thought she was
so
calling me
awesome.
Mother Nature, and I would have said, no way.
Queen of the earth, baby. I love it. Own it, wear it. I want a t-shirt made up for you with that on it.
I
And
might
I'll
have to
have
get
one,
it.
right?
That's
And
going to
I'll
be
have
my
one for me.
logo.
Yes. I love it. That is so awesome. So give us a little tip here. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who listen to my show, and business owners and leaders, but give a tip for somebody who wants to step into their authentic self, maybe at work, maybe in their leadership role. Give them a tip. How can they do that? How can they embrace themselves wholeheartedly? I'm using
Yeah.
a Brené Brown term.
So what I will say is that there are a lot of people that you in the world that you're going to come across. Some are going to be very kind, some are going to be very supportive, some probably not your best supporters, or somebody that's very judgmental. And for me is confidence is not always easy to have. But at the end of the day, you know what you put out in the world every day. And if that means you put out your best, that you're a contributor, whether it's in your work or to your friends or to your family, being authentically you is appreciated always by one person. My mother appreciated me every day. I feel loved by many. I'm a very blessed person. But being authentic mean was that I started celebrating who the person I was. And I don't mean that I put out there and say, love me. It's not about that. But what people feel from me is what they're going to feel about you. So I have to put out what I really am. It will draw people to me. I love you because you're different. I have one friend that's different from all my other friends. And I love that about her. And I told her that. She shared something very personal with me that she felt sometimes like the outsider because she wasn't like the rest of us. And her and I get together for dinner. And I said to her, I'm glad you shared that with me, but I want to tell you, I love who you are. You don't care about makeup? I don't care. You don't care about, you want to go play baseball instead of go shopping with us? I don't care. I love you. And I want to be a friend with you because you celebrate who you are. And that's okay. And I celebrate who you are. You don't have to be like everybody else. My sister proves that every day. She is as people
She's
tell me all the time, she is the light that enters a room. My mother was a light that entered the room. You want to be around her. I want to be a light for somebody, whether it's in my personal or for a business somebody. So by being that, I have to be my authentic self. If I try to hide behind a wall or not be somebody that is the best version of me, it's not going to bring people to me. And that's my tip.
That's
So
so cool. I love that. And that's in business, in life, in everything. It's so true. And I think for many years, business wasn't like that. But now you see people really telling their true, authentic stories because it draws people in. They want to know who you are. Who are you doing business with? And our friends appreciate it too. Like you said, we can celebrate our differences so much more freely and really love that about people. And I love that. And just to celebrate yourself. And I recently did a big seminar on imposter syndrome, and that was one of my tips is to be your own cheerleader. Because
yep,
we forget about that, right? We're always looking for this external validation,
yep.
but really it needs to come from inside. We need to celebrate ourselves, who we are, figure out who that is if you're not sure, and then celebrate it and shout it out to the world.
Yeah, and that journey is different for others, but I realize that inner strengths of everybody is different. Bring that to you because it's so much out there. Bring it to you
Right?
because
Yeah.
somebody's going to always celebrate it.
It's
Always
right, and
celebrate
it's what
it.
makes you unique. And there's
Yes.
nobody else in the whole entire world that can create that business or idea or be a leader just the same way that you can. You bring that unique flavor that only you can share with the world. And as my dad used to say, when we're given those gifts in life, it's our responsibility to share them. So when you can figure out what they are and share it with the world, then I feel like your mission is right there.
I love your dad. He's absolutely right. No wonder you talk about him so often. So,
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much, Karen. Tell us where they can find more about the chamber because it's been so awesome. I want to be able to go to the website.
oh, thank you for that opportunity. For more information about our organization and all our programs, you can visit www.corridor9 and spell out the 9.org.
Love it. We love to spell things here on the radio. So that's corridor, like a hallway,
Yep.
CORRIDOR9NINE.org. And thank you so much, Karen. Your stories, we had all emotions on the show today, and I absolutely loved it.
Thank you for inviting me to be a guest. You're absolutely fantastic at this. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Karen. And remember, everybody, if you want to find out the behind the scenes scoop on my show and what's coming up next and amazing shows like we're having here with Karen today, then don't forget to sign up for my newsletter. Go to carrierowan.com and click on podcast to sign up today. And remember, everyone, it is never, ever too late to live your best story. Be well.
Thanks for tuning in to Look for the Good with your host, Carrie Rowan, best-selling author and mindset coach. Join us every Monday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. right here at Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. If you weren't able to catch an episode, no worries. Just visit our website to find all the archived episodes of Look for the Good on demand, so you don't miss a thing. And remember, it's never too late to live your best story. For additional resources or to find out about how you can work with Carrie directly, visit carrierowan.com for more details.